On today's show, I know I said a long time ago that I would be reviewing what happened at the National Battle of the Bands. Well, it is time. So we're going to talk about that, all that and more coming up next on Luke's Band Report. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you're watching me right now. My name is Jay Luke, the owner and operator of the Passionates Network. I'm also the host of Talk That Talk. You can get any of our merchandise at www.realtalkthattalk.com. All right, so I already know that I told you guys a long time ago that I was going to give you my thoughts on the National Battle of the Bands. But you know, in life, man, we get a little overzealous. And I tried to do it all in one shot. Didn't work out. Not the way I wanted to. So with that being said, what you're going to do is we're going to do it in a two-parter. So you're going to see the first half on today, and then you're going to see the next half starting next week, so on and so forth. Hey, you guys go ahead and watch this, and you give me your thoughts. Tell me what your thoughts are on everything that I said. You can put it down in the comment section, and we'll let out part 2 on next week. Let's go ahead and jump on to it. First things up, Tuskegee University is the first band to go up, and I can tell you this. Remember what I said, you know, this thing right here, the thing that they do, not necessarily overly impressed by what I heard, but again, they're under the awning, and sometimes that awning can either be their gift or their curse. Well, they're not under the awning this time, and I can definitely tell you this. I was a lot more impressed with what I heard from the National Battle of the Bands than what I heard under that awning. Let me go ahead and preface everything by saying this. Luke wasn't in the building. Let me take a pause for a second and tell you why.
Well, we're waiting.
So originally, I was definitely supposed to be there, and I told everybody that I was going to be there, and if you saw me, chop it up with me. And I had planned to go. So much so that Quan had already talked to me about tickets and all that kind of stuff. Well, Job called me and said they needed me. I had to go to work.
That's too damn bad!
That was it. I mean, let's be real. If it was on a Saturday, I would have went and just came home, but I had to go to work on Sunday. So now, let's get back to Tuskegee. Coming out of the gate, I can definitely tell you that I was a lot more impressed, like I said earlier, with what I heard on their field show than what I heard under the awning. Coming out in their big T and they're opening up with an on and on fanfare, I thought was pretty cool. Not to mention the fact that I think they get a little bit more size on them. I think that's awesome as well. So a great start. Ending was a little bit silent because nobody gave them a clap. Y'all wrong for that. But then outside of that, man, I thought they started out pretty well. Next up, going into their drill, I don't know if this was like a Texas theme show, because I think it was like a cactus, and then you did like a 10-gallon hat, and then you rotated it. I don't know. I think that's what you were going for. But playing My First, My Last, I thought was pretty cool inside of that too. Again, I think you guys have a more impressive sound out on the field than what you guys did than when you were under that awning. And so I'm just more or less elated at the sound that you guys were able to produce and the number of kids that you have. And then also, I saw those flags flagging on the side. So great job, Color Guard. I think that's really nice. I think the director is going in a great direction so far. Keep it up. After that, you had the dancers coming out to Lose My Breath by Beyonce and them girls. And I actually thought that it was pretty good. Young ladies did a great job. I can tell that they kind of gassed out towards the end, but it's okay. Remember, this is a situation where it is the first big performance of all of these universities. And one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to overjudge and over-criticize, trying to expect for them to be at the top level when we're only at the beginning. We got a whole season to go, and obviously multiple Battle of the Bands in between. So it's okay to be able to see some cracks inside the foundation, because we know that during the year, those cracks will be sealed. So it's okay. I think, ladies, you guys did a great job for your first time out. Then right after that, they went into their slow piece, and I'm gonna be honest, again, I think that their sound is okay for the size that they have. I think the execution was great. I mean, the song itself did nothing for me, but I mean, good job on the execution. Color Guards and the size were doing their thing, and they were doing the Color Guard thing, and I think it was a great continuation from what they were doing in the field. Saw a couple of tosses in there, but all in all, I thought it was a great performance. Again, here we go with another dance routine. Let me go ahead and put the caveat out there now. I ain't talking about no dance routines. None. I'm tired of them.
They don't dance no more.
We done just had ultimately 12 schools do dance routines in 2 days, and none of them, not one of them, have been exciting to watch, interesting to watch, or something that just made me feel like this was the most amazing thing or amazing dance routine that I've even seen. So with that being said, I'm not going to talk about the dance routine. I'm only going to talk about one or two of them, but there's a reason behind that. So with that being said, we close out Skigi with knowing that some growth is happening, and I'm actually excited to see it, especially seeing as we had an earlier judgment of it that was actually a deception of what the reality of what it is. So great job, Skigi. Keep up the good work, staff. Keep up the good work, kids. I want to see the growth as the year progresses on. Next up, we have Miles College. Now, I saw a lot of hate on Miles College. You know, I really kind of didn't understand the hate. Hate. But we're going to talk about it anyway. First things first, the first thing I realized is this was a very religious show, very gospel oriented, really old school in my opinion. It's very interesting to be able to see what Brother Snipes decided to pull out as far as the gospel thing, because of the fact that I just had the same conversation with my wife, I want to say about 4 days ago, where I said it was very interesting at one time where most HBCUs had a whole gospel show in their arsenal that they were going to do, and it was okay to do. Nowadays in this world, you can't even do a gospel show. So the fact that Mr. Snipes actually pulled that off, kudos to you. But moving forward, they came out of the hole the way they normally do, playing neck. And I always thought it was really interesting to see them come out of the hole doing that, because as a young kid growing up, I never really paid attention to Miles back in the 90s and stuff like that. But I did live close to Texas Southern. And that's kind of what I've known Texas Southern to do. And because I've now been seeing Miles do that more consistently, it's really odd to be able to see the fact that another school does that. And questions now, who did it first? I hit it first. So they come out of the hole after their neck and they go to Simply the Best. You're Simply the Best. Tina Turner, wasn't it? So after the Simply the Best, they go into a diamond formation where they go into this little two-step and then they move it forward. But what we tend to realize, or what we start to see, is that there's some drill trouble that's happening. Now, again, I don't want to fault anybody. Why? Because of the fact that it's their first performance. You may got some young people in the group, and because of those younger people in the group, man, there's a nervousness of walking in front of a crowd of 2,000 or more people for your first performance. There's not too many of us whose first performance was in a dome to that magnitude. A lot of us, our first performance was for our first game, Labor Day Classic or whatever, and some of our Labor Day Classics weren't even as packed. Why? Because most people were tailgating. But other than that, it's really a nervous thing. Not to mention the fact that you're in a dome. Sound is reverberating and you're trying to think about what you're playing, making sure that you're in time with everybody else, and then also at the same time trying to remember your drill. So many things are going on. So we're not going to fault them for that, but it did happen. Now after that, they went into their lines and you can see that the original group that messed up was still kind of messing up a little bit. But they opened it up and went into this, I guess it was like a circular kind of fat cross formation, which ended up putting them in the right place. But then I think they just panicked. And then because of the fact that they panicked, they just kind of stayed there. So it kind of made their mistake even more obvious. Guys, we have to remember, not speaking to the kids who made the mistake, but speaking to the people who were actually watching it. I personally have never been a person who's made a mistake on the field, but I can almost imagine what that feels like, knowing that you made a mistake, thinking about trying to recover, then in the fact that you think that you're now with the right people and moving on with the drill, but overthinking the fact that you made the mistake. So many things are happening in that moment. And again, we're talking about young people who are probably new to this, probably new to the squad or whatever. So we're going to try to make sure that we continue to give grace where we see it available. But them things did happen. We couldn't hide it. Now, what I will also say is this. Color guard was stuffed in the back, and, you know, I'm not necessarily a fan of that. And they were doing their thing back there. A couple of timing issues that I saw here and there. But I just could not really get a good feel for the color guard because of the fact that not only were they shoved in the back, but because the silk they had were also in the pattern of the university. So even in the fact that they were twirling the silk, it was difficult to be able to see some of the routines that they were doing because I was more or less seeing the drill and then that was it. I really couldn't see anything else because they were blending in. So yeah, I would recommend that in certain situations, if you're going to stick them to the back, give them a different silk that makes them stand out so that way whatever routine they're doing, it can also be seen. So after that, they go into their second drill, and I think this one was executed a lot better than the first one. A lot more cleaner lines. There's a lot of bad lines throughout this whole night, so we're not even going to really get into the cleanliness of some people's lines, the badness of some people's lines. Some people's lines were terrible. They were just kind of bad. But again, second drill was definitely better. And then after the end of the second drill, the young ladies came out and they did their thing with their little cat suits. And I thought they did okay. Very well execution on their routine. Couple of timing issues here and there. Some ladies a little bit slower than the others. But remember this, again, we're at the beginning of the season and we're not expecting gold right now. Right now, we're expecting maybe a little bit of silver. Maybe bronze. Wood. Pause. But again, young ladies did very well. Here's the part where I just couldn't understand why people had such a big problem. They went into their slow tune, and with their slow tune being executed, they also had a soloist that accompanied them in their slow tune. Now, for me personally, I don't think that the young lady did a bad job on the song. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a Yolanda Adams song. From Houston people, some people take that very personal. As a Houstonian, it ain't that really big of a deal. Either you can sing or you can't. And I thought the young lady could sing, and I thought the band accompanied her pretty well. So I don't really know what the big deal was. I thought she was fine. Thought the execution was fine. Wasn't nothing that, in my personal opinion, took away from the show. I mean, to be very honest, most of the drill mistakes is what took away from the show, not that. People just want to be critical for no reason. Now, if I were to say something about it, I would just say that she has a very powerful voice, and so maybe they didn't put enough compression on that microphone because they weren't ready for the voice that they were about to get on there. So there was a little distortion inside of the speaker that I heard. But outside of that, I thought it was fine. I thought the color guard did a great job of what they did in the back, and the slow piece was fine. Everybody stopped tripping. Other than that, again, we ain't talking about no dance routines in this. But again, I thought it was very interesting that Brother Snipes actually was able to pull off that gospel part of the show, and I thought it was pretty cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but hey, some people will. But good job. I think Miles did okay. I don't really think that they did terrible like a lot of people think for whatever god awful reason. But good job. I think it was a good showing for Miles. I think for their first time coming out of the gate for their first performance of the year. Great job, Miles. Great performance. Can't wait to see you all throughout the rest of the season. Next up on the block is Tennessee State. Now, I will definitely say this. Tennessee State came out, I think, in my opinion, definitely giving me some great sound. Great energy coming out of the sideline, and I don't got no issues with what they were doing. Drill, I thought was very clean. Sound, I thought was okay. I didn't think that there were anything that was going to stick out, because guys, remember this. We are at the beginning of the year, so we are definitely going to have some situations where we are just not sounding pristine. But for their first performance coming out the chopping block, I can tell you right now, their sound to me, big, powerful, balanced. I take no issues with whatever they put on the field. I'm gonna say this not only about Tennessee State, but I'm also gonna say this for a lot of bands, because I don't think that I need to talk about it any further, but if it presents itself, I will.
Lend me your ears.
Announcers, get out of the way. Like literally, get out of the way. As an announcer, as a former announcer, as a DJ, all this kind of stuff, right? Like there's a point to where you can over-announce. And sometimes you just gotta let the band do what it does. Set up what they're doing, give the energy in the room, and then after that, get out of the way. I mean, in this particular case, trying to get the D9 hype and trying to get all the HBCU people hype, like, I mean, I get it. It was just in the way. Get out of the way.
Get out the way.
So as soon as they came out, they go to this scatter drill, basically to the NBOB, which is National Battle of the Bands, and they pay homage to the 10 years of National Battle of the Bands. Now, let's be very clear. 10 years of National Battle of the Bands does not necessarily mean 10 years of National Battle of the Bands in the city of Houston. From what I know, from at least what I can remember, I don't think it's been 10 years since they've been in the city of Houston, but I think it's just the continuation from what they were doing in Queen City to what they transferred over to the National Battle of the Bands in Houston. But I could be absolutely wrong. Somebody fact check me on that. So they go into this little oval kind of shape and they do some rotations, and that was pretty basically it as far as the drill is concerned. Moving forward though, dancers came out and they gave us a lot of energy. The band sounded great inside of the dancers tune, and I'm not gonna argue with it. But what I will argue with is, again, very similar to what I said about Hot Ice when Norfolk and FAMU played. I felt it was just a little long. I don't know. I guess for me, when we start talking about dancers tune, energy can be high. The dancers can be doing a great job. But once we start getting really, really long as far as the dancers tune is concerned, it ends up becoming a little bit monotonous and kind of not exciting to watch anymore. I mean, but that's just me. That's just a personal thing for me. That may not be for everybody else. And hey, if it ain't, it's cool too. Now the dancers ended and we're on to the slow tune, and this tune was written by my good brother, Dr. Larry Jenkins, and I'm telling you, this one I personally felt like was written perfectly. Those trombones was eating inside of that melody. Footnotes in footsteps. Did I say footnotes? I did say footnotes. I gotta do better.
I'm fighting for my
Footsteps in the Dark by the Isley Brothers, and I'm telling you, the AOB definitely killed that one. I enjoyed that piece from top to bottom. I really think that it was written well, executed very well, and I really have no issues on it. Very good job, brother. Very good job, AOB. Very good execution on that song. I ain't got nothing else. And after that, you already know that from traditional HBCU style bands, you go from the drill to the dancers to the slow tune and the dance routine. And you know I ain't talking about the dance routine. This is a no dance routine review. So if you're looking for some dance routine stuff, I don't know, I ain't got you. Moving on to Texas Southern University, the Ocean of Soul Marching Band. Now, as a person from Houston, I've had the availability of not only watching this band as a young child or a young lad to an old man, but I faced this band. I ain't an old man. Why'd I say old man? Because you're old as fuck. But I faced this band multiple times in my tenure when I was working with Prairie View. And not only that, but my band director from high school was one of the assistant band directors, a legendary band director, Ronald Thornton. So it is really interesting to be able to see what is happening with Texas Southern right now under the leadership of Brian Simmons. Now, as I'm saying that, I will actually say this. I actually commend Brian Simmons for stepping out there and doing something different as far as drill is concerned with the Ocean of Soul. What I'm realizing is that he's doing a lot of military things encompassed with a lot of what we would say patterns in motion is. And I actually like it. I think it's pretty cool. But I really like what he's doing, just being able to step outside of the box and do something different, right? Because isn't that what this is supposed to be about? Everyone not trying to look the same or sound the same. So with that being said, I can't argue with what he's doing. He did a really interesting drill where he took 4 boxes and then they moved around and then they came together and then they did something where they split up and they came. I thought it was dope. I can't argue with it. Now, also, you realize there's a whistle in there for the band to know when to move to the next set. Again, something different that's added to them that, in my personal opinion, does not take away from them. It actually gives something different and another feel to look at. Now, as far as sound is concerned with the band, I'm gonna actually say this. I don't really think that Texas Southern was playing. I'm just gonna be honest. On the field, we ain't talking about the stands. I'm talking about the field. The reason why I say that is because you ever watch one of those like Marvel commercials, and in the Marvel commercial, you see a bunch of stuff, but then you go watch the movie and the stuff that you saw in the commercial isn't really in the movie? I really think that's what Brian Simmons is doing. I think that he's actually not giving us the full energy and the full power of that band to save it for Labor Day Classic, because you have to remember, PV was in the same building as Texas Southern, and they have to see each other, which is both of their first game. Why would I want to give you everything I got when I can give you everything I got on the day of? That's just my opinion. Am I wrong? Possibly. But I just don't feel like Texas Southern was giving me all the Texas Southern on that field. Now, understand? Maybe something different. What do y'all think? Now they go into their slow tune first instead of their dance routine. And they played Incomplete by Cisco. Cisco. I don't know why I said it like that. But anyway, I thought it was well arranged. I thought it was well executed. And the Ocean Waves, in my personal opinion, did their thing. Now, I will say this, as somebody who's been watching Texas Southern for quite a while as a young lad, I think the Ocean Waves are really doing good. I think the changes that they've been making within the past years are really good. And I actually think that they did a really good job on that performance. I actually take no issues with it. Were there a couple of mistakes? Absolutely. Again, we're not going to be overly judging somebody super harshly. Why? Because it's the first performance. Good Lord, give people a break. Give me a break. Outside of that, though, I really thought that the song was executed very well. Thought the Ocean Waves did a really good job. And I don't have too much to say about it. I like the fact that they brought them down in front and they gave them their own spotlight to do it instead of throwing them somewhere on the sides or in the back. So good job. And then you have the motion in the ocean, or of the ocean, or something about motions. Regardless, motion was dancing and they dancing. Listen, I'm gonna put it out there. As a Houstonian and a person from the H, I can tell you right now, I was not a Motion fan and I was not a Black Foxes fan. And I'm from Houston, but I can tell you right now, Motion is motioning. They motioning. They coming out the gate swinging with bats, billy clubs. What I'm saying is, I really enjoyed their routine. The energy was there, the dancing was there. I just really loved it. I even actually liked the uniforms. Actually, to be very honest, on everybody's uniform that I saw that night, I don't even think that anybody's uniform was overly scantily clad or anything like that. I thought everybody picked a good uniform choice. And then after that, you already knew what comes next. I'm not gonna talk to you about it because, hey, we're not talking about them. But I will say this real quick about the dance routine, not talking about the routine specifically, but they did the gimmick thing, you know, where you bring out out the big people and then you make the fun of the big people because the big people actually got rhythm and they can dance. Again, I just don't understand that concept. Big people can do stuff. They just marched the whole show. So what makes you think that it's impossible for them to come out and dance? I don't get that concept. And I'm not labeling this on Brian Simmons or Texas Southern specifically. I'm just saying in general, why do we continue to use big people like they just can't do anything? Big people need love too. Now, obviously they came and did a sideline blowdown, and I think that's where they gave a little bit more of the heat than what they were doing on the field. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I don't think that Brian Simmons was giving them all they got. Outside of that, guys, you tell me inside of the comment section, what band was your band of the night? What band gave you the best field show? We're not talking about the stands, just the field show. Who gave you the better music? Who gave you the better drill? Who had the better drum majors? I want to read all of that inside of the comment section, man. Also, tell me your thoughts on my thoughts. Do you think I'm correct on some of the things? Do you agree with some of the things? Or you don't? It's all good. I ain't tripping. Other than that, man, go ahead and like, subscribe, share this stuff out. I appreciate you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys for listening. And I will see you guys on next week.